In the demanding world of firefighting, training against real-world scenarios is crucial. Yet traditional training facilities often fall short in providing realistic, versatile, and cost-effective training solutions. Affordable Drill Towers presents a groundbreaking solution. By positioning an affordable drill tower alongside your existing Connex boxes burn buildings, a realm of realistic, multi-level training scenarios is unlocked. This integration has been adopted successfully by various fire departments, enhancing their training capabilities exponentially. Delve into the heart of live fire training scenarios within the Connex boxes, now amplified by the ADT's multi-floor access, providing an unparalleled training ground.
We started looking at Connex boxes about probably 10 years ago. To me, you can't beat them, especially for the price. The affordable drill tower was the same way. We've got 6 floors, we've got standpipes on every floor, we've got more anchor points than you can count, we've got removable floors, removable stairs. We can go into the 2nd and 3rd floor off the drill tower, so whether you want to use it as an external stairwell or a high rise, we can do all that and mimic just about any type of situation that the members of the fire department might encounter.
Experience cost effectiveness, enhanced realistic training, versatile operations, easy multi-floor access, and innovative solutions to age-old training challenges. Take your fire department's training to the next level with Affordable Drill Towers. Reach out to Affordable Drill Towers to elevate your training capabilities today.
Corlymore Firehouse Vigilance. It is weekly scrap number 278. My guest tonight is Aaron Fields. He is a firefighter for the city of Seattle and the OG of the nozzle forward. He is known for his dislike of the man, a tendency to question authority, and zealous belief that good basics win. Aaron developed the skills shared in the nozzle forward in an unrelenting pursuit of all things engine. The skills are adapted from many sources, but reconstructed to be based around simple principles that maximize mechanical advantage. Man, it's going to be an amazing conversation tonight because there's so many things about this man that he loves to deep dive into that I love when he gets going. So get your questions ready for Aaron Fields, and it's my absolute pleasure to have him back on the scrap. We've been trying to make it happen all year long, and it's finally happening here before the end of the year. So welcome, my brother Aaron Fields, to scrap number 278.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Corey.
Pretty excited. Is there anything I missed in the intro or anything you want to add to the intro?
No, the intro is all tongue-in-cheek. So it's pissed people off in the past because there's apparently humor is not acceptable in our trade unless they're the ones trying to be funny. So, whatever. Yeah.
Fair enough. We'll see how we do with our humor tonight.
Yeah.
The audience, please get your questions primed and ready for Aaron and myself. Get them in because I promise you it's going to be fun. All the directions we will go. Looking forward. There's already so many people in here and there's so many comments. I can't even hardly keep up. And some Mag Dump Kentucky said cigar lit, tea glass full send brothers. Tailboard Misfits has 2 rocker horns going on. Garrett Crotty said, looking forward to this one. Dragon's Den is checking in, said, yeah, absolutely. There we go. Yeah, there's a ton of hype for it. So we'll get underway. I will get the beautiful sponsors done, and then we will be off to the races. So here we go. Let's talk about those beautiful sponsors. Affordable Drill Towers, on a mission to bring you cost-effective and versatile training props, like the Affordable Bailout Prop, which allows you to practice window bailouts, ladder bailouts, and ladder high-point rescues. They also make the Affordable Standpipe Prop, which you can roll into your classroom and do your standpipe theory, and then roll it into the parking lot where you can pump it with realistic flows and pressures. Their mainstay is the Affordable Drill Tower. It comes in several configurations and standard with a standpipe system. You can choose from 1 or 2 sets of stairs. You can integrate it into your existing Connex boxes for multi-story access or freestanding on a slab. All models are NFPA 1402 compliant and gain you ISO credit. The only thing you can't do on an affordable drill tower is live fire training. Call Steve at 844-55-TOWER or drop an email to info@affordabledrilltowers.com. When it comes to performance under pressure, you need equipment that won't let you down. That's where American-made Snap-Tight comes in. Built tough for firefighters, Snap-Tight hose is engineered to perform under pressure. Plus, Snap-Tight hoses are easy to deploy and even easier to rely on, with unmatched heat resistance to abrasion and extreme temperatures. Here's the best part. They offer guaranteed shipping and 4-week lead times. Visit snaptighthose.com to learn more or find a distributor near you. Snap-Tight hose, reliable, durable, ready when you are. And finally, right here, I like it. FirestationFurniture.com provides a complete line of quality furniture for your firehouse. Firefighter owned and operated. They understand the strain firefighters put on furniture and offer furniture that's built to last. Visit www.firestationfurniture.com for more information. And with that, we've got the sponsors done and we are officially ready to begin picking this man's brain. So let's get right in and let's get as nerdy as possible right out of the gate, and let's talk about linguistics. Your love of linguistics. Where do you think that infatuation came from? And then we'll deep dive into language in general. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I, as an adult, I can figure it out. As a youth, I never, it was around me. So I grew up, and according to the U.S. Census, one, if not the most linguistically diverse zip code in the United States.
Oh, really?
Yep. And it's in just one zip code, right? But as a kid, one neighbor family spoke Japanese. The person across the street spoke Yiddish and Russian. Tongan was my other neighbor. Vietnamese, Ormono, Cambodian, Laotian, Mandarin, Cantonese, Hunanese. I mean, the list go Arabic. The list goes on and on. And as an adult, I realized that what impressed me, right, was that when I'd go over to my friend's house, speak in their houses, spoke these different languages, and I listened, and what sounded like just sound, if you got quiet and kind of thought about it, and you could start to make out where the words and all that, and the thing that really wasn't as much about what the language being spoken, it was about what was being said. When I went over to any of those people's houses, happy birthday sounded really different, but it meant the same thing. And I realized then that language, was super important in the ability to express ourselves. And unfortunately, we, as speakers of a certain language, assume that other languages, that translation isn't just word for word. It's worldview, word, phrase, idea, and certain things don't have parallels. And translation is critical. And as an adult, watching, multiple on various scales, I've been able to identify that really my love of language comes from that, but that fundamentally, I think my love of language is what has allowed me to move fairly effortlessly in any community, because I listen to how they phrase, I listen to how they word, and naturally, I just kind of start that translation process. And I've realized that language is the key. And from language comes comprehension. And from comprehension comes compromise. And not this bullshit definition of compromise that everybody's thinking. Compromise isn't I get my way or you get yours. That's not compromise. Compromise is when you understand where someone's coming from, their perspective, and you, without necessarily having that direct experience, are able to make a decision that's good for everybody. That's what compromise is. So it's not one person gets their way and the other gets the other. And if you can communicate, you gain comprehension of what's being said and what's intended. Secondly, then you can compromise and solve problems. And the third one is, without language, we end up in conflict. Like every time you've ever been in a fight with somebody, your wife, um, someone at work, 90% of the time, the problems start when it starts being solved. It's solved with no, 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 no. What I meant was.
No, yeah.
It's all in people allowing their emotions to cloud their what's going on between their brain and not giving people a chance to say what they mean. We're impatient, and language is a conversation is a two-way or more event, and you have to allow people to speak. And if you allow them to speak and you go a different way, at least they don't feel like they haven't been heard. When I joked about my dislike of the man, my mother would tell you I was born counterculture. If you tell me something and I go, okay, why? And the answer is because I said so. Well, then that's difficult for me. It's against my nature. And I firmly believe on a philosophical level that all rules are followed by choice. You could kiss your sister if you wanted. No one's stopping you. You choose to not do that. And I think sometimes people in our industry forget that everyone has free choice. And whether, if you're willing to pay the cost of your decision, then I'm following rules because I've decided to.
Wow. There's a lot there to unpack. On
Mhm.
language leads to comprehension, leads to compromise, and not the bullshit compromise. But you talk about feeling where another person's coming from. So is that compromise tied to empathy, or is it a different word you would use to describe that connection?
I would say cognitive understanding. I don't need to feel what someone else has felt. I do need to understand it and be able to assess and to have it change. Like the whole point of changing perspectives or including other people's perspective is to make yours more complete.
Mm.
Like like I mentioned, I've had some really horrendous things happen to me because of my family dynamic. And most people that look like me wouldn't have had these events. But I've been held down in a bathroom and been jumped by 4 guys that looked like me because of the color of my dad's skin. And so that doesn't happen to most people. But as adults, we're supposed to be able to listen to our peers and go, God, I'm glad that didn't happen to me. And I'm sorry it happened to you, but let's fix it. And now my next decision should include that increased perspective.
Mm.
Because every event you can't see it from all 360 or how many ever degrees. So in order to do that, you have to be able to listen to what other people are saying, to interpret it and have that effect or not, but consider it in your worldview. Everybody thinks they're fucking right.
No, yeah.
Too much, whether they're wrong or not. Like opinions aren't facts.
Okay, sorry, I got to write some stuff down. 0818 facts. Exclamation point. Okay, another thing you said in there: walk away and feel like they were heard. I
Yeah.
love the way you phrase that. I want to dig into that a little bit.
Sure.
Even though, and even if you have a discussion and you disagree, but you can walk away and feel heard. How important is that? And is there a way to cultivate that? Is there a skill that can be developed to cultivate that? Is what I guess I'm asking.
Yes, communication, and that's acquired skill, it's not intuitive. And in order to learn to to think abstractly, in order to get stronger, in order to be a better communicator, you must practice it. And practice requires you evaluate how it went. Not, well, she just didn't understand. Well, why not? That think about statements that are so silly, like the one that I like is 50-50.
Okay.
That's a failing grade. If you sum those two percentages and divide it by the two people and the confusion that happens between two in simple conversations, then that's a 50% grade. That's a failing grade. You're all in, or it's not worth doing. And some days you're all in is more than it was yesterday. And some days you're all in is more than it will be tomorrow. But your peers and your family and the people that you are interacting with have to know that you're all in. And that means all in on talking. Talking is the key to solving problems. It really is. And we have, as a society, with our shortened attention spans and the destruction of the kitchen table in all aspects of family life and work life. I mean, the problem comes back to lack of communication and assumptions. And it's a practice skill. You have to practice it. You have to talk to somebody and talk to people about things that you don't understand, as
No,
well as things you understand.
no, I love it. I love it. I want to dig in. Again, I love this conversation. But I'd like to ask if there's a person listening and they said, okay, I need to work on my communication skills, but I know that I'm a terrible, they insert whatever excuse. I'm a terrible listener. My, I was raised to listen for it. I have ADD, whatever. And I'm not saying that,
Yeah.
legitimacy aside and all that kind of thing. Um, what's one thing to start working on today to make you a better communicator? Like in Aaron Field's lexicon of how to start, what's step A?
Step A is think before you speak. Think about the semantics of what you're going to say. Think about what you meant to say, or you think you're going to say, what you're intending to say, excuse me, and the way you're going to phrase it, how it's going to come out. The second one is be a total listener. Like, everyone's quick to pipe in, and when you get going in a conversation and two people are rattling back and forth, that's going to happen. But especially when you're dealing with conversations that maybe have a little more oomph behind them, slow down, take a breath before you speak. And the other one is, no matter how pissed off you are, if you are going to fight, don't do it in rage.
Don't fight in rage.
Yeah. I mean, and that's good for, I mean, you can extrapolate that all the way out is like, anytime I'm going to fight with somebody, and it does happen, I don't let emotion in, because emotion clouds my cognitive ability to express myself. And I should be able to express discontent without yelling and screaming. And that's adult, right? That's what we're trying to cultivate in our people. So
That
yeah, I think
maturity.
that's it.
I love it. AB. I asked for A. I got A, B, and C. So there you go. Scrap bonus material. Absolutely. I've got questions coming at you from the audience. They're coming from all different directions here
Sure.
on different topics. So it's very organic. Stephen Kaiser coming at you from down under. He's coming at you from the future, actually. He said, is there a difference? I wish could do an Australian accent. I would, but I can't. Is there a difference between learning a skill, cognitive, associative, autonomous, and the stages of learning, or are they married together?
Well, learning a skill is done in the cognitive phase. The drill is a combined series of skills that are known in a pattern that is probable, not possible, but probable. You start with probability and then you move to possibility. There's a tendency in our industry to talk about the one time in band camp over what's going to happen most of the time, and that confuses people's ability to prioritize and make OODA loop or recognition prime decision making. So skill is when you're working on one aspect, it can be expanded out to a single skill and a compound skill. A single skill would be gapping.
Okay.
Just to make the truckies feel welcome, I'll use this as an example.
Fair.
The compound skill would be a gap set force.
Gaps. Okay.
Yeah. So single source and compound skills, but skills that are known or learned, or you're learning them for the first time. That is the only place that you actually pick up skills. The associative phase is known skills in combinations that are linked to context, which is the when. What, why, when, how. That's the order for psychomotor skills. Whether it's a hockey shot, shooting a rifle, whatever it is, it's what are we doing, why are we doing it, when would we do it, and how. The fire service puts, I've been to a lot of classes and I've watched a lot of classes, and it's always about the how.
The how, always. We start with the
how
how.
the how is not the first thing you lead with. You lead with what, and why, and then when. When are you using this? And that's a drill. And then autonomy is when you have and you can do drills in single source or compound. So I could do stretch, advance, extinguish, but I could also do stretch, force, advance, extinguish, search of the fire room, right? I mean,
Right.
that's a compound drill, but you know how to do all the skills.
All the separate.
Yeah. And then the autonomy would be a scrimmage where you're bringing in a set environment, a single story with extension to floor 2 from floor 1, and you're trying to prompt a certain behavior pattern, but it's everything happening at one time. So, and you can do single source autonomy or evolutions, but if you're only using a single unit. But if it's autonomous, it has to include the other aspects that go into the fire ground. So the model that I primarily use for skill acquisition, which is Fitz-Posner. It's out of a thing written in the 60s, I think 67, and it's a very simple training model that is really robust and really has become the backbone of what most of the modern skill acquisition, which is often just changing the color of the drapes, right? So, I mean, what we are building on is really, in the learning model right now, the really exciting stuff is the neural pathways and what those do in mapping the brain based on electrical currents and things that we used to consider as figurative or literal, in the literal sense, not the modern incarnation of I was literally on fire. You were not literally on fire, you were figuratively on fire.
Correct.
Literally means you'd be in the burn unit, right? So,
right.
But everyone's like, and it was literally, no, it wasn't. Stop it. Fucking English has definitions. You can't co-opt it. It's like, please. But anyway.
I want to dig into the evolution of, but I do want to cognitive associative autonomous. I want to talk about that just a little bit briefer. Painting with a broad brush, the time you think should be spent in each phase.
Oh, it's not a broad brush. It's been defined.
Okay.
20% in skill, 70% in drill, 10% in scrimmage. The practice like you play is only 10% of the time. That is a bullshit, asinine, juvenile JV statement. I only practice like I play. No professional does that. Otherwise, there'd be nobody left to play. You scale up and down based upon what you're trying to accomplish. And I think that's the big thing, right? In drilling or practice, depending on which kind of camp you come out of, it's got to be purposeful. Like if you're at a class and you ask them why you're doing this and they can't tell you, or they'll tell you, well, you'll figure it out when you get there. No, you won't. It's been proven. It doesn't work that way. And so if they can't explain why did you move up, hit it, shut down, move up, and then push, flow and move? Why did I do the hit and move? Well, there's 3 reasons for that. And if it's not one of those 3 reasons, you don't do a hit and move, you default to pushing. So it's all algorithms. Like, I think the way people, for me, it's been suggested by multiple people now, and I don't know if I mentioned this in the last time I was here, but it has been suggested by people that my brain operates a little bit on the autism spectrum, in that when I look at information, I see lines, I see shapes, I see colors, I see a 3-dimensional organization. And like, if something's prominent, that thing pivots and I'm looking at it. And then the other lines, I can trace out. And so I don't have some of the social symptoms or I don't have any of the other symptoms. It's just the way that I look at things. And all of these things neurologically, we know come on deviation. They come on
Sure.
a spectrum.
On the spectrum, right.
So with all that being said, I think that what we lack is purpose. We do to do, and a lot of times people drill for virtue signaling. If your drill is constantly being filmed and put on YouTube, that's not for the drill's sake. That's virtue signaling.
No, that's fair.
And
Yeah,
and
that's a
it's yeah. And the need for attention is an odd thing, and it is not becoming of our species.
yeah. Yeah. So I love it. I love it. I wanted to bring up. Thank you for the questions. I got one coming at you from Garrett Crotty, and it's been seconded and thirded. Uh, and he asked you, Aaron, hope all is well.
Yeah, I tell Crotty I said hello.
Absolutely. And you just did. So he said the book of search just came out. Can you share your thoughts from both the nozzle and heel boss positions when finding a victim on the hand line with no water on the fire?
Yeah, I can tell you what we do,
Okay.
but what we do is an opportunity based upon our demographic, right? So, as we all know, or we should know, every fire is not different. There are differences in um, every fire. But if you don't recognize the patterns, the building construction, the fire behavior, the way that engine or whatever you're doing goes together, then it feels awful chaotic.
Right.
So for us, if you, it's all situational. Is how far am I in? Am I 10 feet in where conceivably I could grab the guy and pull him out while my line opened up if it's in the right range of the fire? Or could they sit there for a second? But the single most important event on the fire ground is the extinguishment of the fire. And if I'm knees deep into the building and it's a working fire, I'm not going to break contact to pull somebody out and then try to re-engage. So if it's a conceivable move for one of us, then okay. Now that I am no longer, I'm the officer, so I would at this point, by our kind of standards on my job, there's not a lot of I don't get to touch the equipment very often,
Right.
much to my lament. And so I'd probably help out. I mean, I would grab the victim with my number 4 and pull them out. But I also have to be sure there's many things to consider. What's the experience level of the nozzle team? How deep are you in the building? How close are you to extinguishing the fire? With the fire department that I work in right now, that went from a very senior fire department to a very junior fire department, but 500 of our people have less than 5 years. I'm not, and seeing some of the stuff that I've seen isn't bad humans. They just haven't had enough senior people around to kind of have some of these gray moments where they can help define them. And so I wouldn't be leaving the nozzle in that case. We have a second crew. Our standard operating guideline is the second due engine tailboard is dedicated to assisting the first unless the first is already in the fire room. So the beauty is if we keep going and I hit that radio, I've got 30 seconds later, somebody's got the victim and they're pulling them out. Well, if it's not the second due engine, then it's for sure the truck. So, the average distance, a difference between second and third in the city is like 32 seconds. So, I'm not working in some of these spaces that some of the other folks that I deal with are with, you've got 8 people.
Right.
That's it.
That's it.
And,
Yeah.
and or whatever. And so, I wouldn't pretend to tell them what they should do. What I will say is the fire saves everybody, if you get that out. So
Right on. No, I
that's my
love it, man. I want to ask so many questions as far as like every fire is different, that whole. But I want to get Scott Hewlett has one. He's coming at you, of course, multiple calls podcast, amazing. But Scott's asking you, how has Jordan Legan's wayfinding and smoke augmented the nozzle forward program? And
Oh,
I'm
that's a
not
great question.
familiar. I'm not familiar, so you'll have to fill me in on.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's um if well, Legan has been working with me for 12 years.
Okay.
He's one of the instructors, and he comes to the fire service with an undergraduate degree in architecture.
Oh wow.
And so when he comes in and I'm laying out my rule of threes with regards to buildings and shapes and angles and all that, he learns it, but he's going to put it through his previous training, the way that his brain works, on what he's been trained to do, how to look at buildings in terms of how do they organize. So then he went back and got a master's degree in architecture
Okay.
and presented the rule of threes at the architectural school, and then built on it in terms of not necessarily for engine work specifically, but for the total fire, like the way to look at the rule of threes for trucks to prioritize search spaces, the way for the rule of threes to be applied for a chief on the outside to assess where everybody else is going. So that's a great question. And the answer is, I think the thing that as far as the curriculum and the cadre, one of the things that I'm most proud of is that many people in the cadre, one, we're not a turnover cadre, meaning we don't just borrow somebody that's got a big name. If you haven't done this process and we can't vet you, and I've been to classes, I watch classes all the time where they're teaching together and one person's doing it one way and another's doing it another. That doesn't happen with our group at all.
Right.
And because we actually have a system for bringing people on that is detailed and has worked for the last 15 years, if you get to the point where you're kind of the full-fledged instructor, you could run the program. And I think one of the things that I'm the proudest of is the cadre of people that have come to this. None of us are into the limelight. We only teach with each other. And when Legan goes out and does the wayfinding class, it's under the banner of the nozzle forward because he's part of the nozzle forward. And so I think there's a tendency often for people to want to maintain control. And the way you maintain control is you empower people to run what they've got going in the backs of their minds based upon their previous training. So just recently at the Pacific Northwest Fire Conference, I went on I lectured, Legan lectured, and then Nate Jameson lectured. So it was basically, and people that were there said it was one lecture. The language that was being used, the way even though the material was covering kind of different aspects, it was all interconnected. And I think fundamentally that's the most powerful point of what Hugh had asked about the process, is that how has Legan's or Nate's or Carl's or Brendan Grace, all the things that they've done using this as their baseboard and still staying true. And there's no splinter groups. It's just us. And we don't look at ourselves as a teaching group. We actually kind of consider ourselves think tanks, in that we're looking at problems and we've got such a breadth of experience with many, many demographics that we're trying to figure out solutions that fit or help the people, not figure it out for them, but help folks come up with the solutions for them. And I think I am very, very proud of the fact that this cadre does at least $80,000 a year in charity work.
Mm.
Uh, and I don't usually advertise that, but you asked me, and the other thing that I'm the most proud of is that um, the people that work with me have helped me in my development, because at a certain point they're as competent, and if I'm not listening to what their perspective is, then I'm a totalitarian.
Mm. Ooh.
And I'm not. And so the question is, how has it helped, or has it affected? Fuck yeah. And if it wouldn't, I wouldn't be the guy that I say I am. And yeah, and I'm yeah, he's doing phenomenal. And our plan as a cadre is actually, we're starting to work through the components of like a 5-day process where we come in and assess buildings and look at key angles and deal with their teaching models and their dictionaries and their manuals and kind of consulting as how these things can work regardless of your skill set. It's the thing that's become very interesting to me in the last 15 years, but specifically in the last 5, is the educational architecture or the educational engineering. I've spent 30 years of my life without realizing it, working on how to acquire skills, and I've done it in 3 different disciplines, and I've been successful in all 3 disciplines. And the system that I use is the same for all 3 disciplines. And so that process and the detailed notes that I take on things, and the way that I kind of continually am reading and experimenting with new material has kept it super interesting. So it's a great question, and it's actually a bit complex, because that's the way relationships are supposed to work. Right?
No, absolutely. I love it, man.
Yeah. And I think for all the people that are out there that are doing their teaching things and coaching things or whatever they're doing, I hope everybody, and I know it won't be, but if I could make a wish for everybody, it would be to become professionals and find a group of people that you are so in sync and tight with. Like the cadre that teaches with me are my best friends, period. Because we've spent more time together than me with anybody else in my professional life. And we share a similar disposition. We share a similar work ethic. Otherwise, you don't make it.
Right.
The screening process is so substantial, and you're being watched and evaluated, and it's not about being perfect. It's about how you behave and how you take critique, and when you are the person giving critique, how you give it, and like your comprehension of the systems that we use, so that no matter where we go, the class takes the same shape, because we can break our stuff down. So yeah, it's a communal soup, man. And I think it's an interesting thing, because I get attention for this thing, but this thing was never intended to be for anybody other than me, and I've never wanted to impact the industry. I've just wanted to uphold my oath to myself. I mean, I think something that people should think about was, when they pay off, how much they want to leave it better. The way you leave it better is you are better. I'm raising myself and my children and to be the people that I wish I was, not the person that I am. And I think this has been something that's come up recently in the last few kind of years. God, I'm tired of the martyr thing. we're not martyrs. We get a good salary and a pension, and teaching or coaching is an opportunity to share somebody with somebody your process.
Ooh,
Not it. I mean, leadership isn't a push; it's a pull.
love that.
You know,
Love that.
it's you do what's right because it's right. I mean, it's not a character. You're transparent, you're accountable, you're hardworking, you're intellectually curious, and you do what's right when no one's looking. And I'm here to tell you, I've seen behind the curtain, and there are people that are doing that, and there are a lot of people that aren't doing that.
Right.
And
No.
and I think we just got to call it what it is. And it's narcissism, it's ego. Egos, it's not ALS or BLS that's destroying the fire service in our culture. It's EGO. Like, fucking eat humble pie, eat it frequently, and that'll keep you from being diabetic. And I'm just so tired of listening to people like, oh, you wouldn't believe I've got this guy. Oh, you've got one great. I mean, we all have the same problems. We all have the same issues in our trade. But I'm tired of I'm trying to impact my community, my work community, not the public, but the people the best example of this. I mean, I've been kind of thinking about this for a couple of years. Is like, I've run a gym that had at one point about 1,500 guys come through over the course of its 22 years. And we built a community. And my wife brought it up. She's like, my wife and my mother brought it up. It's like, wherever you go, you're in your own time. You don't ever you create community wherever it is you're at. When you go to your coffee shop, when you go to, and you've never been, my mother also said, you've never been a follower. And that's made it difficult at times for you to move through the world. And so leadership is a series of characteristics that are exhibited at every level. There's no such thing as informal leaders. That's a bullshit semantical statement that implies the officer's leadership is more impactful. I had a guy at my own job tell me, yeah, you'd have more leadership if an impact, if you promoted. And I'm like, we are local 27. I've imported, myself and some guys have imported a whole new way of doing hose. We've changed the face of I rewrote the academy model because one of the training chiefs at the time, who was fantastic, trusted me.
Right.
I rewrote the whole system for engine. And I don't know that I don't think rank is required.
No, I absolutely love the point. There's a thread I want to pull on that because there's something you said there, and I'm going to lose it because my own scatterbrain is you said in there about talking about wayfinding and Ligon that it was, and I've already lost kind of the quote you said, but it was so important that you got other people's perspectives and they changed your perspective. I can butchering the quote from a few minutes ago.
It's a paraphrase, yeah.
But you developed, and you're touching on this right now. You've developed, I would say it's arguably probably the most impactful class that's been taught in the last. It's approaching 20 years since its inception and its growth.
That's a kind thing to say.
No, I believe that. I'm not saying that lightly because you're here. I think you could have a great debate about if there's something else that could compare. But that being said, very important. You said it would make me. Was the word a tyrant or tyrannical?
Oh, yeah, fascist.
Fashion
Or a tyrant, yeah.
How do you avoid because you are a very intellectual person, you're a cerebral thinker, and I don't know if you're a type A personality, but you seem to be you do when you put your foot in the ground, you do believe what you believe. How do you maintain that balance between being the one who developed it and propagated it and also being the one who's grown it with those close friends of yours, and yet still be able to be malleable enough to grow?
Well, that's because the one thing that everyone in my cadre shares is intellectual curiosity. I am not culturally or personally, I am uncomfortable when I'm comfortable. And when things are easy, I I need a mission. I need a task. And and so how do I do that is I listen completely to what folks are saying. And I'm listening to how they're saying it and what they're saying. The other one is I think this is, we do no advertising.
Right.
And we don't do it on purpose. And this this thing is not, I've never wanted, I mean, it's a kind thing to say, but my desire is to impact myself, to hold myself to those things that I think are important. And this is a deeper conversation. And I mean, this is an interesting angle that this conversation is going. But I don't want to die. And in my last thought, I compromised my ethics. And I'm unwilling to compromise my ethics. And my ethics include the only thing that is of value that pays dividends 100% of the time is time, positive time in another human being. You have to take time for people and do so trying to be who you wish you were, not who you are. I don't take my instinct as acceptable. Everything is up for question. And so it's, I am definitely a type A, but I'm reserved type A. I don't need to yell and scream and posture. I just smile and take them down. And that's the truth of it. I don't feel like I have anything to prove. And my desire to impact has only been for myself. And what happens is with this is that leadership, as we discussed, is a series of behaviors that are exhibited at every level. And it's a pull, not a push. We talk in the fire service about pushing people to do things. No, you don't. You do them. You go through the door and you don't look back, and people will decide to follow. They'll go through the door because it's now culturally acceptable. Someone is demonstrating that. And some people won't. And why do we waste time on those people? You don't change the average performance of your fire department by addressing the bottom 15%. You do it by investing in the middle 70% and the top 15% being in step with one another and not bickering over semantical differences. As you know, I don't watch television, so I'm great in these kinds of things, or I've got stuff to say, and these kinds of says, I guess great is up for debate and interpretation. But with regards to pop culture, I'm fucking terrible. Like, I'm not the guy that's going to quote movie lines to you, because the last movie I saw was a documentary called Rubik's, which was talking about algorithms for people solving Rubik's cubes, which is very correlated to fire service skill integration and all that. So, I think that, but I read a lot, and there's a prolific American historian by the name of Stephen Ambrose.
Okay. Yeah.
And he wrote what his popular books are is like Band of Brothers.
Band of Brothers, right.
But I think Citizen Soldier was exponentially his best.
Okay.
But anyway, I think the essence of what I'm trying to say is was summed up. There's a point in the book where they're interviewing these guys from this company, Easy, 101st, and they all are interviewing about Colonel Winters, and they all say this: best battleground leader I've ever had. Would never ask you to do something he wouldn't. Was transparent and accountable. This is a summary of a paraphrase of what they said. And then some guys would go on to say, I loved him he was like my father that died in the Depression, or my older brother. And other guys were like, man, I was trying to hook up with French women drinking wine when we were in France. He was too straight laced for me. But they all said he was too straight laced. But I trusted him. I respected him. All those things. They all have the same definition of him. And this, I mean, I read this, God, when it first came out, and it stuck with me. And then there's a part of the book, and I don't know if it's in the movie or not, but in the book, they're making inroads into France, and they've got Germans on the other side of this railroad track, and everyone's hunkered down. And this comes from, like, I can't remember, 3 or 4 or 5 soldiers say the same thing, and that's how you know it was probably accurate, not kind of the interpretation of someone's memory.
Sure.
And Winters says, and the train track is elevated, so they're behind the berm. And Winters says, charge, and nobody moves. And then he looks down the line, and he goes. And that's when they followed. That's the essence of what I'm talking about.
No, it's beautiful.
He didn't push them over. He said, charge, they didn't go. And he's like, well, I'm going. And he went. And then people followed. And in our industry, we're talking about pushing and punitive and pulling, all of these things. We talk about leadership like it's fucking business school. It's not business school. That's not leadership. That's management. It's fucking different. Leadership is you invest in people. They know where you're coming from. You hold yourself to the standard that you've publicly said is the standard. Whether you're a firefighter, company officer, whatever, everybody gets to take part in this. And the best leaders know when to let other people lead. And that means let them be the ones kind of dictating the direction. So the answer to your question is, how do I do that is I know that what I did, all I did was I have a background in some arenas and background at a professional level. And so when I saw people doing hose techniques, I'm looking at them going, okay. Yeah, you can get more mechanical advantage by doing this because of my background. And then my background in training. And so when I learned all these techniques in this grab bag of another, one of my favorite is another tool in the toolbox. I know plenty of people that have cluttered toolboxes and can't frame a wall. My 16-year-old could frame one my 20-year-old could frame one by the time they were 8 with 3 tools and a speed square. You don't need new tools in the toolbox. And that is a statement of someone that doesn't understand what's going on cognitively in these moments. You want a rehearsed series of tools that solve all your problems. And that's how you get fluidity. So all I did was take this stuff and put it through my own lens. The backgrounds that my mentors didn't have, that I did have, and I contributed. And so I contributed that system for myself. And then it's grown because people asked to see the tools in my toolbox. But I've never wanted to have a giant impact. And then when my people that work with me that have got to the point where they are freaking excellent experts, why would I not listen to what they had to say?
Yeah.
And
well, you make it sound simple, but there's so many people that can't let go. And again, it's that EGO you talked about. But
oh yeah, and they have to be in control. Or guys that come up with the excuse of why they don't do something. They don't do something because they didn't learn it, right? They didn't learn it, but they make up some excuse for the gap in their information instead of going, shit, you're right. And that's what prevents them from growing. They can't be wrong. And
no, I love it.
And fundamentally, I think one of the things that shows that this works in all directions is, I pay attention and I'm one of the few people out there that's friends with all their mentors, that their mentors recommend their class, even though they don't do it quite the way we do. The problem that's being solved is the same problem. And that's the difference. I don't look at it as a technique into context. I look at it as here is the problem. Now here is a way to solve that problem. And this method is works. And it works because of its connective tissue. But I'm friendly. I can call anyone minus one person who I just don't have his phone number anymore. I can call any of my major mentors at any moment, and I do talk with them pretty regularly, some more than others, but I'm friendly with them all. That's not the case in our industry.
Right. No, absolutely not.
Because people are being disingenuous and they're not citing their sources. I have always cited all my sources. I learned this from him or her. This is how I changed it and why I changed it, and what I changed specifically. So, but it's still citation of sources. And the other day, somebody, I keep a copyright on my material for a reason. And, people that haven't had the class have access to it. And it's like, they're trying to learn from that. That's fucking hogwash. It's not designed for that. And it's just this, like, why not just say, I'd like to study this.
Right.
And the assumptions of what we do or don't do by people that have never done it. It's childish. Let me ask you, who's your football team?
Well, they're called the Commanders now, but it's absolutely the Hail to the Redskins.
Okay, the Commanders. So if in 1984, while football was being run through the between the tackles.
Sure. John Riggins.
And John fucking Riggins. Yep. Brutal. Great runner.
Yes.
But then what happens is these guys in the Bay Area come along and they start running the same patterns. They're the same patterns. They're just organized differently.
Different tempo, different organization. Yeah.
Throwing on first down, throwing instead of sweep running, breaking it up to try to get the defense spread out so they're not just packing the box. They win a Super Bowl. It's called a gimmick. They got lucky.
Sure.
They win 4.
Right.
Now it's the West Coast offense. Now it's just fucking called offense. Everybody plays a version of it. Not every version is the same based upon the team's strength and weaknesses. But I've got quantifiable data, like running tests on different methodology being done by people that are really good at it. Air consumption, time tests. And if instead of saying, I don't want to do that because I don't want to copy, there's no problem in copying. Everybody's copying. If you're saying something and not citing it, it's copying. My, stuff that we do on other people's programs. And it's okay as long as you cite your fucking sources.
Right.
And what they don't do is they don't cite, which is called plagiarism, which translates to stealing. And the burden of understanding this comes on us, not the law doesn't come and inform you. If you're going to put yourself out there, the assumption is you've checked the law. And it's annoying. It's the sound. Like if somebody walked in my latter competitive era and said, man, I got this way to throw an inside trip and you will chew everybody up. You're going to up your performance 25 to 40%. I'd be like, okay, show it to me.
Right.
And I'd practice it for a while. And then after I understood the mechanics of it, I'd put it to use in simulation. And if it works, and let's be clear, I played hugging sports much more than I played lacrosse. Played hugging sports for 39 years, and I still play casually. At 39 years, if you could change my game because you brought in a perspective that I hadn't seen and it changed it quantifiably, I'd be doing it right away. I wouldn't hold on to what I was doing because I don't want to be coached. The difference is between JV and fucking pro. Pro is worried about winning, and JV is worried about their identity.
I love it, man. There's just so many timestamps.
It's obnoxious. And that's part of the reason, not to say there's not great stuff out there. There is absolutely great stuff out there. But man, there's some JV bullshit, and that's done by people that have never been competitive or are not. If they have been competitive, they're not translating that experience to this arena, which is not about originality. It's about performance.
Performance.
Performance,
Yeah.
not my feelings and not my cute saying and the stickers that I put all over my bullshit. Just like fucking get after it, man. I mean,
Meritocracy.
I like everybody's, yeah. Anyway, I got funny stories about, the lack of athletic wear in the foreign country that I was practicing with their national team. None of these people were all duded up with fancy shit. They were wearing beat up sweatpants and fucking really old, if we were doing judo, really old jackets. And it was freaking ratty. And they were world champions. The guy that I practiced with won a bronze medal in the Olympics. The other guy I practiced with was a 4-time European and 3-time Soviet or Russian national champion. He wasn't all fancy. And when I showed him a way to do something that he didn't do, he adopted it right away, and vice versa, because the concern was winning, not.
And
not
how important is the absolute mastery of the basics, so you can be able to, because like you said, you showed him something and he was able to incorporate that into his repertoire pretty quickly. But how
because he was
important the
more
mastery of the
advanced.
basics, making it where he could.
Yeah, exactly. The less space neurologically between two known points, the more rapidly you can assimilate new information. So if you were learning an inside trip for the first time, it would take a long time to get you able to do that. But after you got that, and you got a swing single, and you got a cross trip, and you got a few other things in your repertoire, you would pick up the subtle deviation of that technique much faster, because the neurological space, the way to paraphrase it and make it illustrate it, would be, the metaphor would be, the neurological space, there's less distance. There's more neurological connections from doing it over and over and over again. So when someone says muscle memory, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about neurological space, not your muscles don't memorize anything. Your body recognizes exactly where it's at. The third baseman, you're in Oklahoma, a lot of baseball down there. The third baseman that makes the backhanded catch and throws to first base before his eyes have recognized where first base is, because his body picked up, the back brain picked up all these little subtle clues that he's made that motion so many times that there is no gap in his neurological. Like, it's like when Michael Jordan shot a jump shot, there were neurological pathways that were firing in particular sequences, so that pressure off the balls of his feet was perfectly assimilated all the way up to his fingertip. It's unbelievable what the human brain can do. And people think, I thought forever that there's intuition. There's not intuition. It's all memorized. It's all learned.
I love it. I do want to, man, this might go down as the record of me saying I love it the most in a scrap, as that's my reply as I sit here and listen to you and don't do my job as a host. But I got more questions coming from the audience. Sure. Andrew Johnston coming at you from Kansas. He says the fire service has been begging for an improvement to our foundational educational resources. Do you believe there are any opportunities / options to make major strides to modernize this material soon?
Yes.
Is that the short answer, or is there?
That's the short answer. The long answer is people got to quit. So there's a cultural problem. And the cultural problem is that the firefighters are not conditioned to do long-term projects. You could, other than going on runs, it's conceivable you could work 40 years and do nothing, no project in preparation that took more than an hour and a half. Because if your practice that you put out takes more than 30 minutes, well, now you're interfering with the ball game. And because we are one of the few industries, if not the only industry, the only one that I know of that is a performance-based industry that does not go out of service to practice. Largely, we practice in a state of operational readiness. And because we don't have kind of universal, like the Army has, I think they call them battle drills. They run these things all the time because everybody wants to be culturally, we want to be unique, not individuals. Culturally, we want to be unique, like a special little snowflake. But there's standard issue. And without standard issue, there cannot be accomplishment of the intent of an order in a mobile diverse command structure. So you have to have systems in place that cover the basics. And then what has to happen is we have to rely on outside industries. We have to go to architects that will offer interesting perspective on things like lightweight truss. There's a guy out of Clark County named Colin Kelly that does a phenomenal vertical vent class on lightweight truss. And before he ever taught the class, he gave it to structural engineers. They sat through the program and they fixed some stuff and altered some stuff and changed his perspective as the people that designed it. So really what the fire service needs to do is it needs to be a great synthesizer, because we have multiple disciplines operating. But why are we relying on somebody that has a cert and has been on 2 fires in 15 years to talk to us about thermodynamics? We should ask people that study thermodynamics, and not people that are associating. I mean, the information that comes out of some of the testing organizations now, UL and the such, is fantastic if you read all 1,400 pages. If you just go through the bullet points, that it doesn't, it's inconsistent. You don't understand the when tos and when not tos.
You'll get a summary understanding, but you will not have complete understanding.
Yeah, and maybe even miss some of the intent of what was being said, because, you know, my critique of the UL, and I was on one of the panels, was that we need to get a tech writer. We need to have someone that's a professional writer write this data, because I can point out multiple places if I opened it up where you're going from first person to third person past tense in the same paragraph. It's not fucking, there's parts of it that you have to read multiple times to understand what's being said. And because it's abstract, that makes it even more difficult. The best thing that they could do is get a tech writer, plain and simple. And everybody actually should. Nevertheless, the other thing that we have to do is we have to compile books for ourselves. We are relying on an industry that is, I mean, I'm not saying there's bad people in these organizations. I think there's good people. I think that the organization, though, requires profit margins. And I think that we are changing and using vocabulary that is not scientific, and then change it every 3 to 4 years because there's profit in publishing. And so I think that really what I'm saying is that the problem isn't the industry. The problem is the firefighters not being intellectually curious, having to have an answer in 15 minutes rather than the 4 years it might take to get it, and being disciplined and deliberate enough to write our own books. And if we wrote our own books, and it was written well, and it was only amended when there was a big difference, and it wasn't written on experience, it was built and written on data, and then experience to illustrate that data. And we wrote our own test banks. That's the only way. Really on a national level, because we come from gangs. Originally we were little gangs.
Sure. Okay.
And because of that, we're tribal. And that's why, based on your generation and your geography, the same word can mean vastly different things. So I think it starts with not trying to affect the whole industry, affecting you, and writing stuff down and being willing to amend it and change it and develop the patience to play the long game. Because training and this kind of development is not the hour-and-a-half project. And you're going to have to get educated on other disciplines in order to write these things. So I do think it's possible. It's a great question.
Well, it's a great answer too, and it gives me a perfect chance to segue into something that's been asked about 4 times here. And basically, it's almost like a trap question after that answer, but it says, trying to find where all of them were. Aaron, this comes from Quat Rokel. I butchered that YouTube moniker. But Aaron, when is the Fire Attack book coming out? I remember mentioning. I remember you mentioning that you were working on a book a couple of years ago, and then Diggler also asked, Aaron, when is your book of Aaron nozzles / engines coming out?
Um,
So just to throw that at
no,
you.
it's a great question, and I have an answer.
Oh, I love it.
So I have been working on it for many years, um, and so it's most folks that know me know I dropped out of high school, and so dropped out of high school and later put myself through college because I'd worked in the trades and I could afford it. But in college, I had a really phenomenal teacher that was one of my major one of my the couple of majors that I had, I doubled, and he was fantastic, and I had him every quarter for the whole time I was there.
Mm.
It's a couple of quarters twice, and because it was in this particular subject matter, and he in my junior year he had more stuff to write than he could, and so he comes to me because I was one of the guys he knew the most, and said, we've worked hard at your writing in the last 2 years. I need some articles written, write them, and I'll help you get published. And I did, and he was my editor, and then it went from him to who we were writing for as editor. And so I published in a particular arena, and so it's different. It's a different voice than the book that folks are asking about. I'm about 2/3 through the first draft. Now, that being said, I've written it twice
Okay.
and thrown it out because when I started to go through it, it was, I still hadn't, well, once I realized that I was writing, the difference between writing for a trade document and a historical or academic document, I had to teach myself a new style of writing, and I would write it like a historian, and it was frankly not very good. And so I threw it out and started again, and it happened again. And then for the last year and a half, I've been writing down uh, little pieces. So if when I have time or I'm sitting around, I'll do a quick write of um, how to throw a MIG weld, how to do a fire attack, how to uh, teach your kids how to use a saw, all trade like. And I'd write these phrases, and then I'd read how other trade documents were written. And so I finally found the voice is the simple answer. Our plan is once it's done, we are going to the cadre has a giant project. We're editing a bunch of the fire films that we show in our class. We are making more technical videos. We're working on a lot of training documents. And then this manual, when it's done, will have basic fire behavior, basic engine breakdown, hose movement, and thermodynamics, all the kind of the book of the class, so to speak, with the stuff that we cover. And that'll be that. So we have photos. We're going to take a bunch of new photos. We've just gotten way better at this whole thing.
Awesome.
And had we put it out when we first thought we would, it would be subpar, and we'd be redoing it. So yeah, that's the answer. It's coming. It's closer than it's ever been.
I love it. That's one of the things we say. We're closer to our next fire than we've ever been.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah,
right now.
That's good. Yeah.
And now we're closer again. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, I love and since we're talking about books, this is a great time to switch to ask this question, which I love to ask, and I've asked it every scrap for about 250 scraps now. But book or books that you think firefighters should be reading, does not have to be fire related. Just what books do you wish firefighters would read?
Let's start with I wish they'd read.
I love that answer.
Yeah, I mean, and not read the equivalent of Mad Magazine. Boy, my interests are pretty niche. So I think I think reading anything in the Stoic Cynic tradition is super awesome. I do think that quoting Stoic philosophy on Facebook is the least Stoic thing you can do. Uh, so I think it's supposed to be an internal dialogue, not an external dialogue. Never mind the details, unless you're dealing with talking with other people. I think that Civil Disobedience by Thoreau is really important. Um, I think it's important for, um, boy, other fire stuff. I think going through the older, like Principles of Fire Attack, William Clark, second edition, 1967. I think a lot of the stuff that FTDN puts out, their little
Mm.
books, are
Oh yeah.
excellent. They're excellent. You know, just like anything, I kind of have a distaste for pop culture, and so I kind of look at many. Uh, the especially regarding books and the classification of material and linguistically, I think it's called The Doctor and the Madman,
The
which
Doctor
is
and the Madman.
yeah, which is a book on the creation of the Oxford Webster's dictionary.
I
And that
feel
would be really good for people to read because it really gives you a model for how to codify your language and create your own personal jargon. So those are some good start points.
I love it. That's one of my favorite questions to ask, especially
Oh,
from readers. And I love niche categories too. So never be,
yeah.
yeah, never.
Eric Vestal and Jason Vestal and Eric Briggs, 2010, 2011, fire engineering, quantitative fire flow. That article is actually linked on on the website. That one, those guys knocked it out of the fucking park. And it
Okay.
isn't about nozzle choice. It's about it is, but it's a two-parter, and it really is, in my mind, one of the most uh, the best written pieces on that subject. And I mean, Vestal, we're friendly. I've never spoken with Briggs, but Vestal and I have spoken on numerous occasions, and every once in a while I call him up just to remind him that that was a seminal
Piece of work.
piece of work, man. It was something else, and yeah,
No, I love
and
it.
both really. I mean, by I don't know. Again, I don't know Briggs, but Vestal is a gentleman, like a true, like the kind of guy that you wish you worked with. So, yep.
Which takes us to the 5 questions for firefighters. Now, this has been going on now for 200 and a lot of episodes.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and there are no correct answers. There are no right answers. There are only your opinions.
Okay.
And then the points are completely arbitrary and they're passed out by me with the help of the audience.
Okay.
So
Well, I want good points. I'll
max
buy
points
coffee.
is the
I'll
best
buy
you can
coffee.
get.
I'll buy
So
coffee. Bribery, then.
I like it.
Yeah.
Number one question right out the gate is what is the skill that has carried you through your fire service career?
The skill?
I know. And now I feel like I'm like worried about the wording of my questions because
No, I mean, I think the skill that has carried me through and kept my interest is clearly engine work. And that's not a skill per se, but you get what I'm
yeah,
after.
well, yeah,
But
absolutely.
I think the trait is uh, the trait is being the person I wish I was, not the person I necessarily am,
Ooh,
and holding myself to that, which is something that I do all the time. And when I don't, that's when I feel like I've missed the mark. Not my success or failure, but my success or failure on a moral, ethical level. And then intellectual curiosity. I am incredibly interested in the world around me, and I'm not jaded. Uh, and at 53 and is basically 20, just shy of 25 years in the job, that's a fucking miracle.
no
And the
doubt.
miracle is because I'm always interested in the why did this happen, not what happened. And I don't hold a grudge. Well, that's not true. I don't keep score,
Okay.
yeah, with people.
So clarity of self-perception. Would you say that kind of
Uh,
encapsulate? I love the way you reworded, not reworded. You clarified the question and answered trait, which is what I was really going for.
Yeah, I think
I
that
really do.
those three. I think the two main things is holding myself to my own standard, regardless of what. And again, I'm going to emphasize for me the big power of that is I've never had to compromise my ethics as a human, what I believe in. I've had to do things that I didn't want to do necessarily, but my ethical disposition is not compromised.
Hmm.
And when it has been, when I've made a bad choice, I'm accountable for it. And that absolves me of the mistake because it's been verbalized and then it doesn't happen again. Um, and then the other one is intellectual curiosity.
Yeah.
I think we are not curious enough. I mean, when you got guys going, good enough, it's like, well, that's okay. And then I think the other one is I'm a mule. The ability to pursue excellence is the characteristic that you can practice through boredom. It's not supposed to be fucking exciting. Nobody's excited about getting in a 3-point stance and practicing a swim move. They're excited about winning the game.
Hmm. No, I love it. You're a
And
mule.
people want to be entertained consistently.
Easy, and people have already said it. Max points times
Okay.
infinity.
Okay, awesome. And no,
Kevin Kate gave you max points times infinity, which might be the most ever given out for a single
okay,
question.
Kevin's I plant. He's a plant.
He's a plant. I like it. Steve Mouch also said max points, so you're getting it. Okay, number 2. I love this question, and there is a Spotify playlist out there with every answer that has been added. It's job path.
Oops, sorry.
Who let the? Oh,
That's my dog. We're good.
no,
Go ahead.
What kind?
I have she looks like a small mastiff. This is a very, as you might expect, a niche dog. It's called an OLDE, English bulldoggy. So in the 70s, they realized they were breeding bulldogs into being a character. Bulldogs were working dogs. And so a breeder in the United States, and it's an AKC breed and all that, but a breeder in the United States started breeding back in pit and some mastiffs. So they've got longer. They look like somewhere between a stocky pit bull boxer mastiff. She's about 65 pounds.
Okay.
So my previous dog was a bull mastiff. I'm really like the bull style breed. So yeah. Anyway.
I love bully breeds. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love big dogs and I love bullies. But off topic. Let's get back to it. It's Job Town. It's time. You are en route and responding. You got to think of the scene from Backdraft where the driver slaps that cassette into that tape deck. What song is Aaron Fields playing while en route?
I have 3, and I have to play. I can't play one. Listen, you can't play the same song every day. You got to have 3.
Okay.
First one, Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye.
Okay.
Second one, Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself by Sly and the Family Stone.
Sly.
Third one, Fight the Power, Public Enemy. And I think the last one, because I'd have a fourth one, was pretty much any London Calling by The Clash.
The Clash.
Yeah.
You were going to say anything by The Clash, but then
I was going to say anything, but they did some stuff that was too soft. London Calling or the Guns of Brighton might be good too. But anyway, that's how I'm going. So today, if we're rolling, how I'm feeling today, it's a little Sly.
Okay.
Tomorrow, I think, well, not tomorrow because I'm going to be at work, so I don't want to have Let's Get It On, but that's weird with your crew when you're the officer,
Sure.
We've got a whole station dedicated to that kind of behavior. So anyway, those are the 4 that I'm rotating through.
I love it. And you gave a reason for why. You said you can't just have one, and you gave your reason.
You can't have one. You listen to music's a big deal to me. You can't I can't be contained.
There is no, and I absolutely love the answer. Diggler gave you max points 100%. Steve Mouch said less Metallica, more Marvin Gaye.
That's it,
and
man.
There you go.
Yep.
And Fireman 718 said Dragon's Den, wild choice. Love it, man. Absolutely love it. And they said if you know Aaron, you knew he was going to put Marvin Gaye in there. And then Fireman 718 said Aaron Fields, soul brother number 1.
Yep.
I love it. Max points 1 and 2. Number 3. What is your favorite fire service tradition?
Oh, simple. Kitchen table.
Kitchen table. I somehow knew you were going to say that. You even referenced it. I love the consistency because you referenced it earlier, and when we
Yeah.
started the whole talk about communication.
Yeah, no cell phones, no nothing. Sit the fuck down, have a cup of have a dinner, have a meal, uh, shoot the shit, talk shop if you have to. And then my other personal tradition is that and most of the people I work with have adopted it. Every day, the company at some point, unless we're on a run, goes sometime after lunch to get coffee at a local mom and pop. It's got to be a mom and pop espresso stand.
Okay.
And how we run it is that we rotate the crew who buys, and if someone's on overtime, they're our guest in our firehouse, and I wouldn't ask you over to my home and expect you to make me coffee.
Okay.
So we buy anyone that's not from the crew. They cannot be the one that buys coffee. They can chip in extra on dinner, which is our traditions. But
Okay.
yeah, the coffee tradition started with me in my first 4 months, and that started. It's an inherited tradition from a particular captain. So
I love it. Look, easy max points, and already Sam said max points +1. So
plus one,
they're
he's
being
probably just
creative
plus
in their points passing outing.
That's all right.
And then Cody Jen asked, "Can you give more than max points?" No, I love it. Kitchen table, absolutely. It's so hard. I think that might be mine, honestly. If it's so hard to argue. This one is on the clock. You get 1 minute to answer. We had to put a clock on it because there's no honorable mentions, or there's not supposed to be. You get 1 minute to give me the 4 people you would put on your Mount Rushmore of the fire service. Doesn't matter the reasons or anything. You can explain as much as you want in 1 minute, and go.
My father, Lee Fields, a lieutenant retired from Seattle, Meg Jones, a captain, long retired pre-SCBA guy, Tom Norton. I would say Jeff Shoup. I would say Lombardo. I would say Jim McCormack has been instrumental. And I would say Timmy Klett, uh, and probably Jay Camella. Those would be my guys on and gals on the Mount Rushmore. And it's weird because most of them, I think they're all still alive. So whatever. But they've been really gracious and have been have had some hand in this.
That's
But
beautiful.
there's a shit ton of people, and that's a metric measurement of volume. But that was who I would go with.
I love it. The linguistics guy would define a metric shit ton.
Yeah, it's a shit ton. It's a metric measurement.
I don't know everybody on there because obviously some of them are personal to you, absolutely. But man, unbelievable 8-person Mount Rushmore,
Yep.
and
All
Dragon's
smiling
Den.
at each other.
Mount
And a
Rushmore
couple of
just
them,
got bigger. He said
couple of them giving each other the finger.
that's a big mountain. If Aaron is carving the mountain, he can carve as many faces as he wants. That comes from Steve Match. The most people in the quickest time ever, Gregory Van Ham. And Dirk said that's a metric max points. So there you go.
There we go.
4.
Thanks, thanks, Dirk. I appreciate
You're
you.
rocking along. Aaron did say, I did say in the intro, facetious, tongue in cheek or not, that he disliked the man and has a tendency to question authority. So he broke the rules without even batting an eye.
Yeah, rules are followed by choice.
Heavy fire. Number 5. Heavy fire and searchable space. Would you rather be assigned to the nozzle or first in on VES?
Come on.
I get it. It's almost perfunctory.
Yeah, I'm going on the nozzle. VES, I wouldn't sure like the stick with the little sticks between it. Not sure what it's for, but the hose I know how to do. So I'm on the engine.
You never know. You never know. Sometimes
you never do. Maybe I became curious on truck work, but let me think about that. Nope, haven't. Yep, I'm going on the engine.
There you go. That officially makes it 5 for 5, max points. Mr. Nozzle Ford, easy answer, said the nozzle. That officially gives you max points, 5 for 5, and that officially
Wow.
puts 278 scraps in the books. Aaron Fields, I cannot express to you enough how much fun I had sitting here listening to you talk, honestly, because I said I love it, I think, like 200 times. But thank you for sharing your evening with us, the audience, fielding the questions, answering them. If someone wants to get a hold of you or reach out to you in some way, what is the best way to try and do
Yeah,
so?
it's so the best thing to do is to email through the website, and I'll get back to you. I don't do web email every day. I only do email for 2 hours a week, 3 days, or 2 hours a day, 3 days a week. So if I don't get back to you right away, and then if you have my number or get hold of my number, feel free to call me. Text messages are uh, sketchy at best. So yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Housekeeping, here we go. Go to patreon.com, become a vigilante. If you're not one, why not? For the cost of a cup of coffee, you can be with like-minded souls. We have an awesome Discord that's up and running. The discussions that are going on in there are amazing. The people supporting each other, people that are posting their problems they're having and getting support. It's amazing. It's awesome. So go be a part. If you're looking for a place to connect with like-minded souls, go become a vigilante. One of the cool parts of being a vigilante is you get the after party, which was where we get with the guest after the scrap is over and we absolutely roast the guest on their performance. And it's exciting. And it happens after each party. And the vigilantes show up, and Aaron has agreed to graciously come and be roasted. So that we'll see how that goes as we bust his chops for this performance. Next week, it's Dr. Chief David Griffin coming on from Charleston, followed by the end of year show with Chief Rick Lasky. So the scrap is going to close out 2024. Fields, Griffin, Lasky. I mean, that's a pretty strong finish for 2024. I'm not going to lie. And that's enough jabbering from me. We will get to the after party. Thank you again, Aaron, for spending your evening with us, man.
Yeah,
It
man.
means
Thanks for asking. I appreciate it.
I loved it. It was, yeah. Audience,
Nice chatting with you again.
dude, I love it every time. Audience, you make the scrap what it is. Thank you for tuning in and showing up each and every week to send those questions at the guest and be a part of this and make it. Without you, you can make it magical, plain and simple. I love you all. Remember, mutts don't scrap. I hope the tones stay silent unless it is burning. Everybody, stay safe out there.